The story begins in a small village in the south of France, where a woman named Virginie lives with her two children. Ever since her husband committed suicide, she has had no stable source of income, and on top of that, she is completely drowned in debt. Because of this, every single day she lives under constant stress, worrying whether she will even be able to run the household or not. Out of this desperation, she chooses an unusual and slightly strange path, starting a locust farm. The same locusts that are nothing but a nuisance for most people had now become her only hope, because this tiny species is considered a high-protein alternative that is currently in high demand as feed for animals. In this struggling and broken family, Virginie's children also try their best to support themselves. Her elder daughter Laura helps her mother every day in managing the home, and her son Gaston is still very young. This small family lives in a modest house, and behind it stands a transparent dome, a kind of greenhouse, where Virginie spends her entire day taking care of the locusts. Every day she feeds them, cleans their containers, and observes their breeding cycle. But even after all this hard work, there still wasn't any real progress, because many of the locusts were dying for no clear reason. Not growing properly, and hardly laying any eggs at all. Every day, seeing this situation, Virginie's stress kept increasing. Every other day, she would go to online farming groups to ask for advice and search for new methods to improve production. But even after all of that, there was still no improvement in the locust population. One morning, Virginie told Laura to take Gaston to his football practice. But there, a few boys started making fun of Laura, mocking her because her mother raised locusts. Laura quietly listened to their comments, but her face showed clearly how deeply it hurt her. 6 months earlier, Virginie had promised a client a large supply of locusts, but even today, she was nowhere near fulfilling that order. When the client visited and saw that she had only a tiny amount of stock ready, he gave her a final warning and left. That same evening, Laura asked her mother why the customer was so angry. Virginie said nothing was going right. Their money had completely run out, and the farm wasn't working at all. She had no idea what she should do next. Out of sheer desperation, she called an old friend, Karim. Understanding her situation, Karim began searching for new and reliable customers for her. That night, Virginie turned off all the house lights except inside the greenhouse. She hoped that maybe brighter light would keep the locusts more active and encourage them to lay more eggs. Laura then told her mother that the coach was asking whether Gaston would attend summer camp or not. But Virginie didn't respond, because affording summer camp was impossible for them right now. The next morning, Laura found a video online uploaded by the same boy, Kevin, who always teased her. In the video, he was holding locusts in his hands and openly mocking Virginie's work and their poverty. Laura felt deeply hurt watching it. Later that afternoon, while she and her mother were packing some locusts, Gaston picked up a locust that had climbed near his old wound and slowly began sucking blood from it. Gaston was shocked and tried to tell his mother, but since Virginie was busy working, she didn't pay attention. A little while later, Virginie took both children to the mall to deliver locusts to a customer. Inside the mall, Laura saw Kevin again, and this time he insulted not only her mother but also spoke badly about her father. Filled with anger, Laura punched Kevin straight in the face. In response, Kevin slapped her back. Virginie arrived just in time to stop their fight. But after reaching home, Laura screamed in frustration, saying everyone makes fun of her every day. She was tired of the poverty in this farm. Seeing her daughter break down that night completely shattered Virginie. So she called some clients and decided to sell the farm. She even told Laura about the decision. A few people showed interest, but the price they offered was far lower than what Virginie expected. The next day, Virginie spent some time in the backyard with her children. For a moment, they looked like a normal, happy family. But that peace didn't last long. At school, Laura went straight to Kevin and told him that their family was leaving soon, and she was happy because now she wouldn't have to see his ugly face every day. Meanwhile, at home, the new customer Karim had arranged visited them. He ran a duck farm. He checked the locusts and agreed to buy a batch. But Virginie was so exhausted and mentally drained that she couldn't control her anger anymore. She angrily threw the locust boxes out of his truck, smashing them all on the ground, and told the customer to leave. Filled with fury, Virginie stormed into the greenhouse and started breaking the crates inside. During this, her foot slipped, and she fell hard on the ground, losing consciousness. After a while, when she regained her senses, she was shocked. A large number of locusts were gathered on the wound on her hand, sucking her blood. She quickly brushed them off, terrified by what she saw. But even then, she did not tell her children anything. That night, Virginie went to meet Karim. She told him that the duck farm customer had tried to trick her. The deal was canceled, but Virginie told Karim that she still truly needed his help. Karim replied that maybe she should give up the farm now and start a regular job instead. But when Virginie returned home, her attention suddenly went toward the greenhouse. And the moment she looked inside, her eyes widened in shock. The locusts had laid thousands of eggs in a single night, something that had never happened before. After seeing this, Virginie couldn't sleep the entire night. Early in the morning, she rushed back to the greenhouse. The locusts were far more active than usual. Virginie couldn't understand what was happening, but then she unwrapped the bandage from her injured hand and slowly placed her wounded arm inside the greenhouse. Within seconds, dozens of locusts swarmed toward her wound and began drinking her blood. At that moment, Virginie understood the truth. The reason the locusts were multiplying so fast was because they were feeding on her blood, so she made a plan. She cleaned her wound carefully and decided not to tell the children anything. She had made up her mind. Every night, she would let the locusts drink her blood until the business became profitable. Seeing the locust population growing at such an incredible rate, Virginie bought another greenhouse. Karim helped her set it up. That evening, when Laura and Gaston returned from school, Gaston was excited, but the happiness drained from Laura's face, because instead of selling the farm, it was expanding. That night at dinner, Gaston excitedly showed Laura a box of locusts that was shaking wildly, as if the insects inside were trying to break out. But Laura angrily slammed her hand on the box, crushing the locusts. Then she turned to her mother and shouted, "You said you would quit all this! You said we'd start a new life!" Virginie tried her best to explain, but Laura refused to listen and stormed into her room. Later that night, Virginie returned to the greenhouse again. This time, she removed her clothes and let the locusts cover her entire body so they could drink her blood and multiply even faster. Afterwards, she went to meet Karim, who was shocked to see how rapidly the locust population was growing. At Virginie's request, Karim contacted the duck farm customer again. The next morning, Virginie delivered a huge batch of locusts to his farm. This time, seeing the enormous quantity, the customer bought them immediately. Virginie's farm began expanding rapidly. To feed the locusts, she ordered large amounts of animal blood, because feeding them with her own blood was no longer possible due to their massive numbers. The locusts had multiplied so much that the noise they created became overwhelming. The sound was so loud that Laura had to wear headphones just to sit in the yard. She was completely exhausted and mentally drained by all of it. Yet she knew that something about this whole situation was... Laura knew there was something her mother, Virginie, was hiding from everyone. One day, when Laura's friend came to visit, she shared everything she had been holding inside. But when they stepped into the yard, the noise of the locusts became so overwhelming that Laura, furious and frustrated, rushed into the greenhouse and cut open several of the domes. At that moment, Virginie was out making a delivery, and Gaston was sitting quietly in the car with his goat. But the moment those blood-hungry locusts escaped through the torn domes, they flew straight toward Gaston. Somehow, Gaston managed to hide inside the car and saved his life. When Virginie returned home, Gaston told her everything, including the fact that ever since the locust attack, his goat was nowhere to be found. Hearing this, Virginie checked the greenhouse and realizing what had happened, she grew furious with Laura. Then she went out searching for Gaston's goat. A short distance away, she found the goat, dead, its blood completely drained by the locusts. This horrific sight increased Virginie's fear and tension even more. She quietly buried the goat's body and returned home, telling Gaston only that she couldn't find his goat. Gaston was heartbroken. The next day, trying to lighten the atmosphere at home, Virginie took her children on a picnic. There, she told Gaston that he had been accepted into the summer camp. Gaston was thrilled. Meanwhile, Laura noticed fresh wounds on her mother's body. Although she didn't say anything, this only deepened her worry. That evening, Karim arrived with a brand new scooter. When Laura learned that her mother had bought it for her, she was truly happy for the first time in days. Later that night, Virginie and Karim sat together drinking wine, talking, and eventually, their conversation turned into something more intimate. They began to kiss. But when Karim touched Virginie's body, the wounds caused her so much pain that she pulled away, stopping things right there. The next morning, Virginie contacted the blood supplier to continue feeding the locusts. But this time, the supplier asked her to provide legal documents and proof. Virginie was terrified that her secret might come out, so she canceled the deal. Meanwhile, a construction worker arrived to install another new dome, but a large tree was blocking the area, Gaston's favorite tree. Virginie initially decided to cut it down, but after Gaston begged her repeatedly, she changed her mind and decided to shift the greenhouse's position instead. Because of the blood shortage, the locusts had become even hungrier and more aggressive. One night, when a neighbor's dog wandered near their house by accident, Virginie fed it to the locusts. But even that wasn't enough to satisfy their hunger. So Virginie began leaving the house at night, wandering through the woods, hunting stray animals, and using their bodies to feed the locusts. She also continued cutting herself, ensuring the insects got fresh human blood as well. A few days later, the duck farm owner returned, bringing another new customer with him. Both were impressed by the size and health of the locusts. Virginie successfully secured a new deal with them. But during all this, Laura kept noticing new disturbing things every day. Blood-stained clothes in the house, her mother sneaking out at night, and her increasingly strange behavior. Eventually, Laura told Gaston, "We need to get out of here. Something very wrong is happening." But Gaston didn't listen to Laura and left for his summer camp. When he later returned home, Laura went into her mother's room and found several clothes soaked in blood. Shocked, she searched for Virginie and went toward the greenhouse. What she saw inside made her entire body tremble. Virginie was completely naked, allowing the locusts to crawl all over her body and drink her blood. Terrified, Laura ran back to her room and locked the door. Trembling, she texted Karim about everything she had witnessed. Karim rushed to their house immediately. Virginie had become extremely weak from constantly feeding the locusts her blood. Seeing the condition of both mother and daughter, Karim took them to his home for safety. Karim still didn't understand what was actually happening. Angry and confused, he demanded the truth from Virginie, but Virginie refused to tell him anything, so Karim brought them back to their house. As soon as Virginie and Laura went inside, Karim made up his mind. He went to the greenhouse alone to discover the truth himself, but the moment he stepped in, he saw the dead body of their old neighbor, the same man whose dog had gone missing earlier. It became clear that when the old man came looking for his dog, the locusts had attacked and killed him. Realizing how dangerous everything had become, Karim didn't waste a second. He poured petrol all over the greenhouse and set it on fire. Virginie tried to stop him, but it was already too late. However, the fire caused a massive swarm of locusts to escape. They burst out of the dome and flew into the open air. Horrified, Karim ran back to Virginie's house. He shut all the windows and doors and warned Laura not to step outside. But when Virginie entered the house a moment later, the scene made her freeze in terror. The locusts had attacked and killed Karim. Panic-stricken, Virginie began searching for Laura, but Laura was no longer in the house. Terrified of the locusts, she had run toward the forest, and a huge swarm was chasing her. Virginie followed her daughter's screams. Laura reached the edge of a lake, flipped a small boat upside down, and hid underneath it in the shallow water. But even then, the locusts tried to attack her relentlessly from every side. When Virginie finally reached her, she realized there was only one way left to save her daughter. She cut her own skin in several places and offered herself to the locusts. The locusts were immediately drawn by the smell of her blood and swarmed over her, leaving Laura unharmed. Once the locusts fed on Virginie's blood and flew away, Laura came out and rushed to her mother. Virginie was badly wounded but still alive. She had hidden underwater to avoid being killed. Seeing her mother's sacrifice, Laura hugged her tightly with tears in her eyes. If you were in their position, what choice would you make? And most importantly, how was your experience watching this entire journey unfold? Comment below. Your thoughts mean a lot. If this story moved you, please like the video and subscribe for more intense and emotional narratives. Until next time, stay curious, and I'll meet you in the next one.